AI is here and AI is making decisions, or is it? Actually, the question is who is making the decisions? And of course, when we talk about leadership, who is leading at the moment? Is it AI or is it the humans? We have an expert on the matter with us here today. Hello and welcome, Dr. Adrian Wolfberg. Hello, Adrian.
Good morning or good afternoon, Niels. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much for taking the time, and we get straight into the content. You wrote the book, and of course, I think it's a really good title, especially in today's times. Many people wonder what's really happening at the moment. So, who leads when AI thinks? And of course, my first question has to be, what was your main motivation to publish the book at this point in time?
Well, it goes back to 10 years ago. I was teaching at the U.S. Army War College, and I was doing a study on decision making. So I've been focused on decision making for the last 15 years.
Mm,
And at the time, this was 10 years ago. The Army was just kind of thinking about AI in just kind of an intellectual way, and that got me kind of thinking. And then in 2022, I worked with some undergraduates at Rutgers University, and one of the students was interested in how AI could be a positive or a negative contribution to intelligence analysts, who work for U.S. intelligence agencies.
mm,
And they weren't able to complete their study because of other time constraints. And that I said, well, if they didn't have time to do something, I'm going to go ahead and do a study. And so I did a study of how it basically the end of 22, how people associated with the national security um, business, academics, consultants, people in government thought about AI. And what I realized that even at that nascent time, there was no thought about how it would actually work as part of a workflow. Who decides what, how's the problem framed and so forth. So
mm.
that led me to not focus on, so by 2024, I wanted to change the conversation and not talk about the technology itself. I wanted to talk about how and what people need to think about before they even touch the technology so that they have a better chance of having successful outcomes using the technology. And so that was my motivation. And it's really a leadership book. It's not an AI book. There's no engineering, there's no technology. It's a leadership book about how to frame a problem and what happens over the course of a life of a problem,
Mm,
to be thinking about the best match between human contribution and machine contribution.
mm.
So it provides a lot of frameworks to that to help a leader or people who maybe are managing people who are working in or with AI.
Excellent. So when we talk about judgment today, what would you say where does AI go? Is it because of course you know the fear that usually people will approach you with as soon as they talk about AI. They say, well, are the machines basically taking over? Are they the ones who are going to make the decisions in the future? So in which situation do you think that human decisions will prevail? In which situations do you think probably AI is going to prevail? And where do we have a mixture of both?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Niels. Um, where there are very structured problems that are well understood, that the inputs are well understood, that there's not controversy in terms of expected outcomes, or there's no contradictions between the purpose of a excuse me, solving a problem. That's really conducive to AI.
Mm-hmm.
So just think about, manufacturing a product like, you know, a computer, or, where there's specifications that are well understood. Okay, that is really conducive to AI. But those things that are not conducive to AI are going to be issues that there are that people struggle to even understand what is the real problem,
Mm.
and that they would, and on top of that, there are going to be different agendas about how to solve the problem. People will have different perspectives, they might have different purposes. Um, the
They might even have
expect
different intentions as well. So they might
they
have different intentions depending on what they want the outcome to be.
Yeah, so these are, we call these things wicked problems. These not only have complexity to do with it, so, complexity in this sense just simply is a lot of interdependencies that may not be fully understood or be able to control. But when it's wicked, when we don't understand what the nature of the problem is right off the get-go, we don't understand what the outcome is going to look like or how it may be applied. So just as an example, um, how would you how would you solve the healthcare crisis? Well, what what is the crisis?
I mean, that is probably something only defining the crisis probably could take us hours, weeks, months, and years to define, only where we actually have to start from.
Yeah. So, how do you solve poverty, or how do you solve polarization in public life or political life?
Mm.
These are genuinely human issues. Now, having said all that, on both sides of these extremes, on the those kind of issues that are really conducive to AI, there will always be some kind of small human element involved. Similarly, in those things that are predominantly human, there could very well be a small element of AI that could be used to provide information to help
Mm.
better understand what the current status is of X, Y, or Z. But that's
Mm.
kind of the spectrum that I've laid out.
Excellent, excellent. Especially when now people think, I mean, I read your CV and it's really impressive. So when people now say, hey, frameworks, of course, will help me. And when people now say, look, I'm looking at this interview, and maybe some people say, I am a leader in the business. However, I am not a particularly well-read academic. I don't have a PhD. So what kind of read can people expect when they open the book? Should they be determined academics, or is this a read for absolutely everyone?
It's a read for everyone. I've intentionally change use everyday language. I'm a practitioner myself. I'm also a scholar, so I know how to write in both worlds. I use language that is not academic. Um, I use it's not a book that is prescriptive, as in here's a list of 5 things you have to do. Do this one first, do this one second. It's more about here's how to think.
Mm-hmm.
And here are kind of the space to think about. So the example of what is the nature of the problem that you're actually working. So I provide a what I call a decision cube. It's it's understanding 3 very kind of simple, straightforward aspects. How complicated is this thing you're looking at? Is this new or is it familiar to you? And are there contentious agendas that humans have, from either political, I mean small p, organizational, and so forth? So if you can wrap yourself around those 3 areas and help you, that kind of framework will help you identify the kind of problem it is. And then from that, you can figure out, okay, here's where I think AI could be helpful in this part. Here's where it may not be appropriate here. And so you can start assigning the right mix in various aspects of the problem, as opposed to a one size fits all approach to just kind of defaulting AI to everything.
Mm, excellent. And of course, one question, the last question I have to ask here. When people now think, hey, I'm going to buy the book, I'm going to read the book, and then they say, I think I think Adrian could be really helpful to our business or to our organization. Maybe they have a question or they ask to, for example, get you in as a keynote speaker, as a guest speaker, trainer, coach, mentor. How can people get in touch with you?
There's a few ways. LinkedIn is always one way. I do have a website, and you can contact me through that. Niels, I don't know if you're going to put that information
Of
link.
course. Yeah, we're going to add all
Yeah,
that. Yes.
yeah. So those are the two ways, and those are the best ways, and that's how we can go forward. I would say that anybody who's interested in this has to think about the value of time. And I think one of the books I'm actually in the process of thinking about writing um, a I'm 2 books away now thinking of what I'm going to write about is how to manage time in the sense of being able to not be so rushed that you don't understand what's going on
Mm,
because AI is pushing us to the point where we're not giving ourselves enough time to understand what's going on because it operates at an incredible speed, much faster than we can. So this is also part of the conversation that I'm trying to change is that we have to, no matter what sector people are working in, what business, it doesn't matter. If you're going to use AI, you have to start thinking about allocating enough time to thinking.
mm,
Because if we don't, we're going to end up shifting what it means to be human. I don't talk about that in the book, but just in terms of our conversation
yeah.
here, that is a important implication that we want to think about. Because if we give up time to think, then we default, I say, everything to AI, and then the question is, what is the role of humans?
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
what are we?
Mm, absolutely. I think these are the perfect final words. So you see, who leads when AI thinks, how leaders frame decisions and exercise judgment. I think we now see that this book is an absolute must read. So at the end of this podcast and videocast, there's only one thing left for me to say. Adrian Wolfberg, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome, Neil. It's very nice to be part of your podcast.